Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Aggieville Alleycats podcast, where come rain, shine, or anything in between, we're here to deliver to you the Kansas State sporting news that you so love. I'm Ace Edwards, right alongside
Connor Baltazar.
And welcome to this week's weekly recap, where we have a little bit of recruiting notes to go over. Then we're going to go over soccer, volleyball, men's golf, which has been a familiar reprieve. We may have set the world record for most times men's golf's covered in at least in a K-State podcast, maybe in most podcasts. And then, of course, the wacky segment of the week. But let's go ahead and dive straight into a little bit of recruiting news. And this recruiting news is for the women's catsketball team, as the mini cats and the women's catsketball team have picked up a brand new commit for the class of 2024. And that is Finley Onstad, a 6-foot shooting guard and small forward from Lakeville South High School in Lakeville, Minnesota. So obviously it's a brand new commit, but Connor actually knows what he's talking about when it comes to basketball. So I'll defer to him on this.
I will begin by once again asking anybody to make a viable women's basketball recruiting service. Like, you don't even have to go as in depth as On3 or 24/7. Just do like something that isn't ESPN's like poor effort. Like, that's all I want. That's all I want. But
I want the bare minimum.
Yeah, literally just like go through, just at least grade commits like for school. It takes like 10 minutes.
Yeah.
So Finley Onstad, a 6-foot shooting guard / small forward, emphasis on the shooting guard though, because I'd say that most of her potential probably lies as a shooter, which is very encouraging that the staff is looking for outside shooting help, because that last year was probably the biggest struggle for the women's basketball team. So I'm pleased by that. Onstad is a 2024 recruit, I will say, so it'll be a while before she's making it to campus, but she'll be in the same class as Taryn Sides. But I like her game. She brings long arms to the table, so that's kind of where most of the small forward play comes from, just because there's some defensive utility there. She's got good burst. Her top end speed isn't phenomenal or anything, but she is quick to get to her top speed. She shows a affinity to driving to the basket. Does a good job with that. She's good at creating separation on the perimeter, but not so much the closer she gets to the basket. But she's solid at getting around people. Didn't see a ton of defensive highlights, but she did have a few nice blocks. She has a really quick release on her 3 as well. So definitely a lot of utility in the future as a 3-point shooter, and we definitely need the help on the outside. So again, coverage of women's basketball recruiting, coverage of anything that isn't men's basketball or football recruiting wise is super limited. So we're doing the best that we can to cover that. But she's got good potential based off of the bit that I've seen from her huddle. Not the most unbelievably athletic person in the world, but all around still a solid player. Clearly a good outside shooter and a skilled shooter at that. Would like to see improvements in lateral agility and maybe more top end speed, but there's only so much you can do with speed, really. But I like what she can bring to the table as a shooter on the outside, just to help diversify the offense a little bit more.
Yeah. You're definitely right on the money in saying we need help with outside shooting, and also that women's basketball is criminally under recovered from a recruiting perspective, because they don't even have like a specialized service. Baseball has perfect game, but enough complaining. Welcome to the family, Finley, and obviously go Cats. Next up is the soccer recap for the week, and there is but one match to recap, and that is up against the Oklahoma Sooners in Manhattan. The Sooners entered this game with a 7-5-3 record, with a 2-2-1 conference record. Your Kansas State Wildcats beat the Oklahoma Sooners 2-1 with 1 goal in each half. The first goal was scored in the 43rd minute for the Cats, and the second was scored in the 81st. And then Oklahoma responded in that 81st minute, but also that was it for scoring. So the Soccer Cats held on, and Connor has you for the more specific stats.
Yeah. So yeah, like I said, a 2-1 victory for K-State. There were a few yellow cards doled out in this game. Only one of them to K-State. K-State Jasmine Brown got one in the 59th minute. Then the next two were to OU in the 64th minute and the 73rd minute. But shooting wise, this game was roughly even in terms of shots. OU definitely outshot in the second half. But it was a slight K-State advantage in the first half. It roughly evened out. 15 shots for OU over the game to 11 for K-State, and 7 on target for OU to 5 for. So OU did take a slight advantage there, but not enough to write home about. Then K-State was 6 saves, OU with 3. Corner kicks, K-State had a slight advantage there. 7-5 for OU. Fouls were dead even, 10 apiece. But yeah, K-State did get the last laugh on this one with a 2-1 victory. Sophie Harlan, the freshman, gets one of the goals. Kaylee Thornhill had a goal as well as another shot on goal, and then 2 more shots. So then Bailey Nemechek with an assist, as well as Ada Anderson. Then Jasmine Brown, despite the yellow card, did play all 90 minutes on the defensive side. She has been really, really good so far this year as a true freshman. I have when I've been able to watch soccer games, she has definitely been a highlight of the team. And I've really enjoyed watching her grow and play far beyond her experience. Other than that, not a ton of notable stats. Kyler Goins had 2 shots, neither on target. And then Ada Anderson had 2 shots and a shot on goal to go with her assist. But yeah, this was a game that was fairly evenly matched in terms of basically every statistic. K-State did go up 2-0. OU was able to score less than a minute after K-State's second goal. So those last about 10 minutes were kind of sweaty, probably for Mike Dabini. But they still come away with a victory to get to 6-8-2, 2-4-1 in conference play. And with that 6-win mark, K-State has tied their most wins in a season ever, to tie with, I believe it's 2021 and then 2017, as I recall. 2017 and 2021. So they have 2 more games. If they can win one of them, they will have their most wins overall in a season ever, and they'll tie their most conference wins in a season ever. So, last week I was kind of melting down a little bit at times. I feel like we've had a soccer meltdown like 3 times.
Once a week.
Yeah, but they've ultimately played themselves into a solid position. They can finish strong. Then at this point, they are looking very likely to make it to the Big 12 tournament. If they beat KU, I think they're a lock to make the Big 12 tournament. Because KU right now is sitting in one of the elimination spots, I believe, because I think it's the bottom 2 spots don't go.
Well, I thought it was only the bottom 1.
That's what I thought, but then it would be an odd number going to the tournament, which would be kind of weird. So I figured, so it might be bottom 2 unless they give like the number 1 seed a bye, which it might be. I'm not really sure, honestly. Which, oh well. But I mean, we did get second or second to last in 2019, and we didn't make it. So I would imagine that it's bottom 2 don't make it. But K-State currently sitting two spots out of elimination. They're in 7th. They can beat KU. Then they'll move up at least 1 spot over Oklahoma, who's just ahead of them right now. But the soccer team is a much better position than I think either of us thought that they would be right now.
Yeah.
Based on how they've played at times this year, especially how they kind of started the year, which had some very frustrating losses and kind of a blowout against Texas. But they've seemingly kind of figured it out in the last couple of weeks. at times at least.
Yeah, at
But
times. Not against Texas Tech was kind of a mess.
yeah,
It, it's it seems to be a problem with consistency, which is a problem for all of our non-rev sports. But that's a grander discussion for later on and maybe next week. But in terms of awards, Sophie Harlan got Big 12 Freshman of the Week. So congratulations to her. And as we've alluded to, we next play the University of Kansas in the Sunflower Showdown. The day this releases, Friday, October 21st. So if you're not doing anything, head down to Boozer Family Park and support the Soccer Cats. Next up is volleyball. And we got to start off with a little bit of hurt because the first game that we're going to be talking about was up against the then 8-9 and 3-3 in Big 12 play Texas Christian Horned Frogs. And yeah, we got reverse swept. I was at this game. It was remarkably painful because it kind of hit me by the middle of the third set, like, wait a minute. And then fate had set itself in by the fourth set, and then the fifth set happened. I was just so unbelievably sad. But yeah, we got reverse swept by TCU at home, which is the second time the K-State Wildcats have been reverse swept at home. The first time was KU in the Sunflower Showdown. In terms of how the scoring went, it was 25-20 in the first set to K-State, 25-19 to K-State in the second set, and then all TCU, 25-16, 25-20, and then 15-5. It it was just so painful to watch, honestly. That's the best way to describe it, because it was a complete and utter collapse of just the most violent and disgusting way possible.
yeah, there. No, that's I suppose a good way to put it. Statistically, I'm not really sure what else to draw from that other than K-State didn't necessarily play horribly offensively. Elena Baca had a nice night with 39 attack attempts, 17 kills, 4 errors. Aaliyah Carter had 52 attack attempts, 14 kills, 4 errors. Katie Fernholz, 23 attack attempts, 9 kills, 3 errors. Haley Warner was all right with 14 attack attempts, 4 kills, and 2 errors. Sydney Bolding had 3 service aces and no errors in that department. Mackenzie Morris had 17 digs. Molly Ramsey had 8, as did Aaliyah Carter, and Elena Baca had 7. But beyond that, not a ton to write home about. Lauren Hinkle did have 42 sets, but just couldn't really get it done. Once again, we allowed an opposing player to just have their way offensively. Julia Adams at TCU had 39 attack attempts, 20 kills, 4 errors. I think defense has been something that's probably been one of the biggest issues for this team.
Yeah.
I don't really know a lot about volleyball strategy, but we clearly are not playing great defense when the other team is pretty much scoring at will.
Yeah,
And I know that
that's an
much at
accurate
least.
assessment.
Yeah, I can deduce that much at least. When you can't stop them, maybe it's a you problem. But
Yeah.
it's very frustrating because I think this team has a lot of potential and a lot of offensive firepower, but I think a lot of it is poor positioning and unforced errors. And that a lot of that probably comes back to coaching, I'd say.
Yeah.
Um, Again, I don't know a lot about volleyball strategy, so I'm not going to sit here and act like the arbiter of like what makes a good volleyball team and what doesn't. I just read stats off of a chart. And
The stat man.
yeah, like, but I couldn't sit there and like identify a single volleyball play, but clearly something is wrong when you get reverse swept at home by a team that is not as good as you are. I mean, there's no excuse for that really, in any stretch of the imagination. But yeah, that's a soul crusher if you're K-State volleyball, like going up 2-0, and then getting destroyed in the third set, losing the fourth set, I think just kind of giving up in the fifth set, losing 15-5. And that's pretty embarrassing. That's a rough way to go, especially at home.
Yeah, especially at home. But we followed up the very next match by reverse sweeping Oklahoma at their home court. Oklahoma entered this match 11-7 on the year with a 1-5 Big 12 record. And it's almost like K-State in a way picked right up from where they were at the TCU game. They lost the first two sets 25-20 and then 25-15, and then turned it right back on and went and won the last three sets 25-22, 25-15, and then 15-13. And after we talk stats and what this game means, we can have the grander conversation about this volleyball squad.
Yeah, this Oklahoma game, I don't know what to make of this team
I don't
because
either.
I don't understand how you. I mean, it was the exact opposite outcome of the previous match. I'm glad that they fought. I'm just confused. And
Yeah.
they fight off the reverse sweep. Things were looking pretty grim after the second set. Then they just grinded out a tough win. Things were looking pretty bad in the fifth set, honestly. They were down 8-4 at one point, and they came back to win 13. Again, showing a lot of grit. But yeah, getting into stats. Sydney Bolding, 21 attack attempts, 11 kills, 3 errors, hitting really well there. Shaylee Myers, 33 attack attempts, 13 kills, 4 errors, only played in 4 sets. Then Aaliyah Carter had one of her better games in a while, 37 attack attempts, 16 kills, 5 errors. Beyond that, not a lot of other super notable offensive contributions. Mackenzie Morris had a phenomenal game with 29 digs, and then a service ace as well to go with 5 sets. Really, really excellent stuff from Mackenzie Morris, who's been one of the main consistent pieces of this team. I would say on the back line, playing a libero, I believe. But then going off of that, 9 digs for Lauren Hinkle. She also had 43 sets. I may have already said that. Did I say that? But
Who knows?
who's to say? Who's to say?
Who's to
But
say?
yeah, it was a good game for K-State, which is just so strange to me. They Oklahoma had a few people have pretty solid performances, but nothing to the extent that TCU had against them. They out hit Oklahoma. They had more service aces, fewer service errors. Yeah, K-State somehow wins in Norman with a reverse sweep. I don't know what to make of that. Ace, what do you what do you make of that, Ace? I'm going to put the onus on you.
Yeah, this just leads to the grander conversation about the volleyball team. This team, I'm not sure they could be much more inconsistent because one game, one match, they'll look lost. And then the next match, they will look like they're world beaters. And this even happens in the middle of matches. They'll look like they're just completely down and out, like they kind of looked in the Oklahoma game. And then they'll wake up and suddenly start playing super well. And we currently sit at 12-8 with a 3-4 conference record. With the talent that we have on this roster, that shouldn't be our record. We've dropped a few games that we haven't. We shouldn't have lost to TCU. We shouldn't have lost to KU. We probably should have pulled it out against Rice. We've lost a lot of games that we shouldn't have just because this team is struggling with consistency and chooses the worst possible times to fall apart. And I know that there's still quite a few games on the schedule. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. There's 9 games left on the schedule. So there's still time to sort of right the ship and, make another NCAA tournament berth. But you really need to find any degree of consistency down the stretch in order to make that happen. And not counting Big 12 play. I mean, actually, I'm not sure there is a tournament, but not counting, you have to find a degree of consistency if you want to be a tournament team. And that means you probably have to eke out victories against schools like KU again, Iowa State. You need to find a way to beat West Virginia again, beat Oklahoma again, get the one back from TCU. You need to win the majority of your last couple games. And with how inconsistent this squad has been, I'm not sure if they can.
Yeah, this is a squad that, if anything, seems to really thrive on mid-match adversity. But only if they go down first. They seem to do a solid job of fighting back, but not do a good job of holding the lead, which some of that might be inexperience. But a lot of these players have been here for a while. This is Aaliyah Carter's third year. Fern Holes is in the same position. Baca's new, but there's not a ton of super young people playing on this team other than Shaylee Myers. Um, I I'm not really sure. Part of it's probably just part of the game, where if you're not a top flight team, you're just going to ebb and flow as things come and go. I mean, Elena Baca, uh, she's a perfect example of that, where, yeah, she had a really good offensive game, but she had 7 reception errors against TCU, which accounted for 7 of the 10 that the entire team had. So really, really rough game for her. Then she follows it up and only has 2 against Oklahoma, and doesn't really do a whole lot offensively. 12 attack attempts, 1 kill, 1 error. So, and some of it is just ebbing and flowing, and it just kind of comes and goes when you're at the college level and even at the pro level. But it's rarely as drastic as it's been this year. There could be a multitude of reasons for it. At the end of the day, if you get dubs, you take those. And it doesn't really matter how you get them. But I mean, this is a team that could be doing even better than it has been. And I think they know that. Like, they should have beat KU at home a few weeks ago, almost a month ago at this point. Geez. And
Good Lord.
yeah, I know, right? It's flying by.
Bro,
And then
it's Thursday. I thought it was like Tuesday.
that's the weird thing is I thought it was Friday on Tuesday this week, because I had a midterm on Tuesday and just didn't have a life for like 3 days straight. And so I thought
That's
the week
fair.
was like done on Tuesday. What a shame.
What a
But
shame. Could have happened to
yeah,
anybody.
should it be TCU? I mean, we could go back and forth on this stuff all night if we wanted to, but at the end of the day, they're doing roughly, I think, what we anticipated, which was be decent. And yeah, they've dropped a few head scratchers and a few that you'd like to have back. But then they've also had a few nice wins and good performances, um, sprinkled in between. So, and again, I'm not willing to hit the alarm bells just yet. For one, I don't think it's worth throwing a major fit over the volleyball team.
Nah, bro, I'm gonna throw a
Um,
tantrum right now.
Feel free to do so. I will not stop you. I won't join you, but you can do that if you wish. Um, and then also, I mean, I think next year maybe they'll play with a bit more confidence, just having their own arena. Because I don't know how much playing in Bramlage affects them. I wouldn't imagine a ton, but it it's definitely kind of a weird place to play volleyball, I think, because it's
Yeah.
definitely not designed for it.
Nope.
Uh, so having their own arena next year, brand new arena, which I'm looking forward to hopefully catching a game or two from there. Uh, that is allegedly going to help recruiting. We shall see if
Yeah.
that's the case. But they're ultimately doing what I think a lot of K-State volleyball teams have done the last few years. I'd like to see more because they've shown that they can do more in the past. Granted, it's been a few years, but it's been shown that K-State can be successful at a borderline national level in the past, like back in, I think it was '03, where they just went on a reign of terror in the Big 12. They won like 18 straight matches or something like that. But yeah, so there's definitely potential here, but still a ways to go as a squad. More talking than I've done about a volleyball team my entire life, I think.
Yeah.
All to come back to, hey, maybe.
Yeah.
And
Yeah. That's the thesis. Hey, maybe.
yeah, perhaps is my summary. But
The next game for the Volley Cats is in Bramlage this Saturday, going up against Baylor. at 1 o'clock in the afternoon. So again, if you're not down in Fort Worth, you may as well come on, swing by. Before you head to Aggieville to watch the game, may as well swing by to support the Volley Cats. And now, the moment everyone's been waiting for, I'm certain, and that is the men's golf recap, because they just had their fall Big 12 match play. They ended up going 2-2-1, 2 wins, 2 losses, 1 draw in match play, good for sixth place in the Big 12. The notable one there to me is a draw with #1 Texas Tech. We drew the #1 team in the country.
Yeah, that is absolutely outstanding. It doesn't get much better than that, really, from a K-State perspective. I mean, yeah, they did barely drop a head scratcher to TCU. They tied to KU. They kind of lost steam by the end, but they doing that well against Texas Tech. I mean, that's phenomenal. I truly didn't really have expectations going into that. But being able to perform at such a high level and get a draw against them, that's really, really impressive.
Yeah. And that's their fall season. The next time they play is sometime in spring. Is it them or the women's team that plays at the mythical Brazil?
That is the women's golf team. They will be visiting the Brazil on April Fool's Day of all days.
That's right.
That's what makes it all the more funny. It's just that not only is it called the Brazil, but it's on April Fool's Day.
Fool's Day.
Well, to organize an Alleycat trip down to the Brazil. I am not doing that. I will not be able to. But that'd be fun if they're continuing to do it in like I don't know, like 4 years. I'll actually consider going to the Brazil, even though I played golf like once in the last like 10 years. So
it'd be worth it just to say you went to the Brazil.
Yeah, maybe they sell merch like that's like I was at the Brazil like 2025 or whenever it is I end up being there.
God, dude, that'd be sick. I'd wear a Brazil t-shirt everywhere I went. I'd never take it off.
I wouldn't wear it because I get it framed. So hang above my mantle is my prized possession, my Brazil shirt.
Your kid's gonna walk by someday. Papa, what's that?
What's the Brazil? Sit down, son. I'll tell you a story.
We're gonna learn you about the Brazil today.
All children should learn about the Brazil. That should be like mandated in curriculums.
I'm just saying, there's going to be a party on this show whenever we're recapping women's golf at the Brazil.
If the women's golf team wins the Brazil Invitational, this podcast might shut down.
Because nothing will ever beat that high.
We will riot in the streets in Aggieville. The Aggieville riots, they're making a comeback, I guess.
Making a comeback.
We're not going to do that.
For legal reasons, that is a joke.
That is a joke.
And for actual reasons.
The golf team is taking a break because their fall slate is done. They'll be back for the Mobile Bay Intercollegiate February 13th and 14th in Mobile, Alabama. And then that will be the beginning of their spring schedule.
So yeah, that's the men's golf, and that's pretty much the weekly recap. And now we can go into everyone's favorite, the wacky segment of the week. And although I don't think it can quite match last week's, nevertheless, we have a good question this week. And that is, if Jerome Tang and Chris Kleiman were both fighting game characters, what would their signature moves be? Would you like to go first, or would you like me to go first?
Let's break it down by person, because I have one for Tang.
Okay. So
yeah. For me, I think Jerome Tang's signature move would be the Ema attack. He would just scream Ema like Goku, and then he would, I don't know what the effect would be. Maybe it would be like a temporary effect, like for 10 seconds you can't attack a K-State fan or something like that.
He goes Ema 5 and it's just the world blows up. All right. So since I'll go second with Jerome Tang, I think that what he does is it's kind of similar, but he just kind of hits a pose, points at his opponent, and then just says, get him. And then the entire K-State student section comes down just to trample this one person
Through the power of influence.
through the power of influence. And they're all screaming KSU in tune with stomps on the person.
You know what? I like that.
So for Kleiman, what I think his special move would be is the running timeout. So he has
Oh,
to go into a full sprint, call a timeout right in their face, and then they're like frozen in time for 30 seconds, where Kleiman can just verbally assail them and or throw a playbook at them, in which case, if they ever make contact with, they instantly explode. So the running timeout is Chris Kleiman's signature move.
that was gonna be my basis for mine was the running timeout. I'm not joking. That was exactly what I was gonna do. Um, I'm trying to think about other like Kleiman signatures. I'm gonna call
Apparently, he
it.
gives a great pregame speech. Apparently,
I'll do. Um, he gets a stat buff. It's not a really signature move, but he gets a stat buff against any red team. Uh, like just like a general, like he becomes much stronger against red teams, and if it's a top 5 red team, then like once per match, he gets an automatic big play. Like he just gets to smack them freely like once per match.
so we kind of had the similar like time stop thing there, to where like they get a free attack.
He gets to attack the red team just once for free, and that's
All
enough.
right, that's fair. You have
What
anything
do
else to say?
no the what you reply with your Jerome Tang, Chris Kleiman signature moves as you
Who would
should.
who?
Who
Oh,
would
I guess
win?
the question is who would win.
Who would win? Um,
Ooh,
I'll say Kleiman. I think he's pretty scrappy.
the Kleiman with the timeout.
Yeah, I think so. Jerome Tang would cut it like really close because of his power of influence over the student section, but I'm picking Kleiman because I think, well, in a true one-on-one, like no signature move, I think Kleiman clears.
Oh yeah, he clears.
But Tang definitely makes it close with his his influence,
Yeah,
his
I don't know.
his resolve, if one will.
I
But
he has resolve.
he
I
does have
think
resolve.
if yeah, if Tang has the student section power, I think he kind of clears in like this Street Fighter scenario.
Yeah, you're probably right. But gosh, I don't know.
Well, it's they can't fight each other. They're like on the same team. So, this is a hypothetical.
Yeah.
But that pretty much wraps up this episode of the Aggieville Alleycats podcast. Thank you all so much for listening. If you want to contact the show, you can follow us on Twitter at Aggieville Acats. That's capital A, capital A, and capital C in cats. If you want to email us, we are AggievilleAlleycats@gmail.com. If you want to follow us on a more personal note, I am at AC Edwards00.
I am at Connor Baltazar, capital C, capital B.
And if you want to support the show financially, please be sure to check out the official Aggieville Alleycats merch store, where you can find such designs as the staff-approved Doomtang Clan, Play Sandstorm Cowards, and Neon Alleycats. But most importantly, thank you all for listening to this episode of the Aggieville Alleycats podcast, where come rain, shine, or anything in between, we're here to deliver to you the Kansas State sporting news that you so love. Stay safe, Alleycats.